Hi there, it's Vladimir. In this video I'm going to talk about psychology. So psychology is really a complicated theme or complicated topic, and for many people it's a kind of science which other people study in universities, or it's a kind of field where people deal with other people who have problems with their psychology, with their brain and their abilities to communicate effectively, or whatever other problems other people may have. But there's another view on psychology which appeared like more than 2000 years ago and slowly was developing during human history. And this view, it sounds pretty easy, and it's like it can be stated in just few words, and to understand it you need to understand just these few words. But the point is that the more you dive into this topic, the harder it is to understand what's really going on there, because again, few words. In ancient Greek, they used this. It was a motto at Delphi's oracle, Gnoti se auton. So, and the phrase means literally "learn yourself," or like learn, or you may say it in a different way, like know yourself or learn yourself. And the main point here is that you take yourself. It's like, what does it mean to learn yourself? Do I not know myself? Like, well, I'm like living for no matter how many years. So the point is that I always it's really difficult. I always with myself all this life, and of course I know myself. What's the point to bother myself with this philosophical, meaningless thing? Well, the truth is that when you start to learn yourself, or when you make an attempt to know yourself better, very soon you may come to the point when you figure out that you don't know yourself. And if you don't learn yourself, if you don't try to study yourself, let's put it that way, study, you may think that you know yourself, but it's untrue. And since you start studying yourself or learning yourself, you'll come to the point very soon that you don't know who you are and what are you doing, and you don't know your behavior, you don't know your motivation, you don't know why you do certain stuff and why you don't do others. And like on a superficial level, you may say, "Well, I know a little bit about myself." But again, when you start learning, it's like learning modifies you. It modifies you. It makes you a different person. Since you start truly learn yourself, invest a certain time, like every day, for this process, this learning, you'll see that you'll change. And the whole idea of changing and transforming your personality, it's all about learning yourself. Because you can't, maybe you can, but basically it's not the case. So people can't change themselves, not because they don't want it, but because they don't understand what does it mean to change themselves. And lots of people tell you need to take actions, you need to do something, you need to find the goal and pursue this goal, and it's all really superficial. Because everybody can tell you that in yourself can tell you that to change you must do something. You must to make a goal and to identify what person you want to be and just try to to become this person. But again, it's all really superficial, because on the deep level there's completely different point of view on this on this process of change. It's hard to talk today. Like, I choose this topic, but the point is that I have some thoughts, and I haven't been talking about this for a long time, and it's really difficult to gather up all these thoughts and to find an appropriate way to express these thoughts. So I need to practice a little bit more. Maybe, yeah, it's like, again, since it's my daily practice, of course I can just start covering this topic, start talking about this, and probably at the end of the week I will be able to express it much better. And every video, it's an attempt to record myself, to find how can I express, because it's like I know it, not perfectly, but I know it well, and I know what I want to say. But now I'm starting talking, and my I can't find appropriate words to say what I want to describe. But I'll try anyway. It's not a big problem. So you are learning yourself, and while you are learning yourself, you change yourself, or you'll be changed just by this process. So in order to change, in order to transform yourself into a better person and somebody whom you want to become, you shouldn't they set a goal and to take actions. It's all not so important as the realization that the first thing you must do is studying or learning yourself. And what do I mean by that? I mean, what do you do in school, or what did you do in school when you was there, when you were there? What did you do? You studied some different subjects like physics, math, chemistry, biology, history, and many others. And what you didn't study in school, and maybe even if you went to psychology class, and even if you are maybe you can even be a student of psychology, and you maybe graduated from a university and psychology was your major subject, and now you might tell me lots of things about the history of psychology, William Wundt, Fechner, James, Freud, Jung, Gestalt psychology, who was there? Fritz Perls, Kurt Lewin, humanistic psychology, Maslow, Rogers. You may tell me all these theories, and probably you know how to probably you may do psychotherapy, you may help other people, you may have this lots of theoretical knowledge, but you still can be in a place when you don't understand what is psychology. And this understanding, it doesn't come from learning from schools, because in schools usually they don't teach you that, because since they start teach you that, there is no point to go in school, any school. Even me right now, I'm talking to you this, and I'm talking this to you, and since you understand what I'm talking about, there's no need for you to watch my videos. There is no need for you to watch anything. The point is that studying yourself, you take yourself as a subject, in the same way as you take math or physics or science, any other science, and you start studying yourself, literally. Who you are, what are you doing, why are you doing this, who these people with whom you communicate, what is around you, what motivates you. And this is never-ending process, because since you started doing that, there's every new day, and every new day you just add something to your studying. The easiest way to do that is journaling, and something what I'm doing right now. So you just look at yourself, record yourself every day, see what's going on in your brain, learning how you are talking, what are you talking about, why are you talking about this, studying all these subjects. And basically it's you can come up with any method you like. So you shouldn't use methods which somebody else has suggests you to use. You can take anything, like, oh, okay, what to study? In school probably I learned something, how to study like subjects. First of all, I have to like maybe come up with a definition. Like, what's definition? I am, and then you can write down the whole like list of definitions who you are, and then like some relationships between different parts of your character, or whatever you may identify yourself with. Basically, there's lots of characters in you. If you think about it in a way, like when you communicate with other people, if you study in yourself, like really studying, and in this case you may study your communications with different people. You may take like your friends, let's say if you have somebody, or your relatives, or people, or your co-workers, and you can like study all communications which you have with these people. For example, with person A, you can study what are you talking about with this man. And by studying, I mean after each communication, you come home and write down what you were talking to this person and what he said to you. Not, of course, in details, but like basic, basic analysis. And also you write down what you felt, how like your emotional level, and then you study all sorts of communications which you have with other people, and then you'll discover pretty soon that you are not the same person with anybody. Like with this person you communicate in, like you have one character or style. With another person you communicate differently, and you're not the same man or woman. You are like a different person. It doesn't mean you are not the same on a like, of course you simultaneously the same person, but the way how you behave, the way how you present yourself, the way how you view another person is totally different, and it's crucial. You think, oh no, I'm like the same person, but I behave like in two different ways while I'm talking with two different people. No, you are not the same person. That's the point. You can't control it. If you think about it deeply, you'll see you may try to learn to control yourself and to be like the same with everybody, but it takes like, I started thinking about it more than 10 years ago, more than 10. And since that time, I've tried to improve my communication and, to learn how to be always the same, to learn how to be like, to be myself, let's say, with anybody, no matter who am I talking to, like, not of course, children and adult, but the point is, if I talk to somebody who is like high status, or in another way, if I talk to some friend, like I learned to be like more myself, not to lie to other people, not to to deceive them, not to try to be inferior or superior in different cases. I try to be like myself, exactly. And it took me more than 10 years, and I'm still in this state when I can't control this properly. I mean, there's always something that can be improved. I know that, for example, today I'll have a conversation with like a bunch of people in the speaking club, and still I understand that like I can't be the same person as I am when I communicate with myself, with these people. And also with each of these people, like I can't be the same person as well, because they all have different, they all have different influence on my behavior, and I can't just like, it's like when you communicate with somebody else, it's like it's not only you, it's like you plus this person. And it's like if you communicate with person A and person B and person C, every time when you communicate with this person, there's two characters involved in the process, and it changes you, and as well it changes another person. And you can be the same with everybody. And again, since you start studying this, you may discover that you have like different types of personalities, and then you study these personalities, you're trying to understand. It's like what many writers do when they, for example, write books. They create characters, especially novelists and science fiction writers. So they make characters, and these characters, sometimes of course they are characters from, like, based on their friends or their relatives or people with whom they communicate with. But in general, like many novelists, they create their own characters out of their own, like, feelings or thoughts, because they're pretty easy to understand. Like, for many writers, it's not something unique or something special. They all know that they have different types of personalities within them, and they just develop these personalities in different ways, and then they, use these different personalities to argue with one another. It's like it's really interesting stuff. So again, you start learning yourself, then you discover that you can't, like, reach the final point here. In the same way as if you truly learn any science, you can't, like, you think, oh, like math or physics or chemistry or biology, what it is. Like, it's a science. I may start studying it in school, then I go to university, I studied 5 years at university, and probably then I go to become a professor, and I study it as a professor, and at some point I will know everything about this science. No, you will never be able to know everything. Any science, any subject of science can be learned ad infinitum. You can continue learning it more and more and improve your knowledge. And if you are a dogmatist, of course you can learn a dogma, which is like one piece of knowledge, and which takes everything outside of this dogma as like not knowledge, or like as something that doesn't make any sense. In that case, of course, you can learn one field of knowledge, and then you can say, I know everything. But in reality, all subjects, they all are infinite. And since you started studying them, you can never reach the final point. And when you study yourself, it doesn't mean that you study only like your behavior and what are you doing, with whom you communicate with, etc. You also study everything else. You study math, you study history, you study psychology, philosophy, sociology, physics, whatever may help you to understand yourself better, you can also consider as something really important for studying. And linguistics is like really amazing thing. So for me, recently, like 2 years ago, it's like it's recently. So 3 years. 3 years ago, I started writing in English, and I started. It's like before that, I was studying myself for 8 years, from 2000. Yeah, I started writing down something like my first journal. I started writing it at 2008, and at 2016, I made the first attempt to shift my journal from Russian to English, and it was successful because I was able to make it for almost a month. So during, not a little bit less, maybe 3 weeks. So 3 weeks I was writing in English, and it wasn't grammatically correct, and it was really awful. When I look at it now, it's awful. But now, since like after 3 years of practice, and now I can write almost perfectly in English, and I enjoy what I'm doing. Like, I enjoy writing what I'm writing in English. And the point is that now I can look at myself from different perspective. Before that, like during these first 8 years, I was applying Russian, and I tried to study myself or learn myself by using this language. But then, since I started learning English, I changed my methods. Like, not all of them, but there were some changes in it, and it helped me to not just to understand myself better. It's like, well, it's really hard. But when you think about this, like, maybe for you, like, you think you know who you are, or at least you know some basic concept, or like you have this body, your experience, your maybe relationships. But when you study like yourself in one language and then you shift to another language, you may discover, like as I discovered, but probably I discovered it even in my native language. But then, like, again, when I just, maybe it was a confirmation bias, because I already knew that, and in English I found the same, like, base of knowledge, and I studied this base, or whatever you might call it. So the point was that I discovered that my identity, something that it's not just a thing, it's also the process. It changes, and it may be like nothing at all, because since it's a process, and since it's not a noun, it's like it's not a thing which I can present in a present simple or past simple. It's like it's present continuous always, or past continuous just in continuous time. So I can say that I know myself, because at this moment I may know something about myself. Like I may know what I've been doing for the last 34 years, but I can't say that I know everything. Like, why did I do that? What was the point? Like, what were the main reasons for? Like, I have only guesses, and everybody, like, if you study yourself constantly, it's like if you take this whole process of thinking, which gets through your mind like every day, like 16 hours, something's going on there. And if you focus your attention totally on that, and if you record yourself, like this process, let's suppose that you soon will make these devices, like you can just put some device in your brain and it will record the whole stream of your consciousness. And we are pretty close to this point. Like 50 years from now, it will certainly appear. So, and that time you can say, okay, now, like, since I have this, like the whole process recorded, of course I may start studying it, and at some point I'll realize something more. But again, you can, while you're studying, you also change, and it's really, it's too complicated. You might start studying yourself whom you were like 5 years ago, but while you spent 5 years for studying, you became a new person. It's like Achilles and turtle. Like Achilles will never be able to catch up the turtle. Why? Because, well, catch up isn't an appropriate phrasal verb. Okay, Achilles will never reach turtle, because no matter how fast he runs, turtle runs too. And since Achilles, like, if Achilles comes to close to turtle, next moment turtle moves a little bit more. And to Achilles, to get through the space, he needs a little bit time. Like, no matter how infinitely small this amount of time may be, he still needs a little bit time. And he gets through this distance for a second, but during the second, turtle moves forward in 0.1 second. And to get through this distance, Achilles needs to get a little bit more. So the point is that you will never be able to know yourself. And that's why it's so interesting to start studying yourself, because since you started studying yourself, you will change, you will find something that's really important for you. And it's like, it's something that you can do for the rest of your life. And it's something that may transform you in a better person. And something that can help you to solve your problems, especially lots of psychological problems, which you don't want to admit. Like, if you look at people in general, they all have lots of psychological problems, but they don't want to admit them. And since they don't want to admit them, they don't know what to do with them. They don't try to solve these problems. They try to drink, play video games, like watch TV, eat food, like, do lots of things just to escape from this state of, when you need to face what's going on and start doing something with that. And it's really, for many people, example, it's a problem. Since you start studying yourself, you will discover your problems in half a year. You will know everything about yourself. And then, and again, by studying, I mean real studying. Like when you go to school, you have a notebook, right? Or something like this. So, and you, in this notebook, you study something, you write something down. The same thing here. Take a notebook and start writing something in this notebook. Like, it's my Russian, one of my Russian notebooks, and I have like 4 here. And there's 4 here. And these 3 I already published. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, these 3. It's like, and this one in English, and these 2 in Russian. And I already published them on the internet. And if you want to understand better what I mean by studying yourself, well, find these books and read them. And well, yeah, it's not easy to read because there are lots of stupidity there. And the point is to get through all this stupidity and see it, because like what I published there, it's like, it's bullshit mostly. But the point is that you live in a state of this bullshit like all your life. Maybe like if you are an exception and you get through this process and you know what I'm talking about, in that case probably you don't need to read that. But in the case that you never try to write, if you don't read your journal, if you don't study yourself, well, you live in this bullshit state. Because it's like, since I started, I remember the moment when I started publishing my journals, and it was in 2015. It was the midst of 2015, and I was thinking when I want to start. Like, do I need to start from the first day? Like not Thursday, but the first day when I started writing, and I read what I wrote the first day, and it was awful. And reading, it's like, I started publishing, it was 2008, and 5 years, I cut off 5 years as something completely stupid and irrelevant. And I started publishing my journal from the end of 2013. And I published, at this point I already was satisfied with my language, with my thoughts, how I presented myself here. And and I liked it. But then when I started studying English, and when I shifted to English, I realized, no, it's like, it's not truth. If I want to like create a book or to publish my experience, I must start from the very beginning, when it was awful, when it was like stupid, like I can't explain. You just can read it, and you'll understand what I mean. So, and then I started publishing this, and many people like who read that said that it's interesting. They was, what? Is it interesting? Really? It's like, oh, I think like they resonated with what I was writing there, and I wouldn't say that it was stupid people. It was exactly the opposite. It was smart people who said, oh, it's like what you write in 2011 or 12. Like I experienced the same like right now, and for me, it's like I was even. I was not willing to publish it because I felt that it's like stupidity, but like, okay, it's hard. So start studying yourself right now. As the faster you start doing this, the more opportunities you have to really discover something within you that will